Hello, thank you for tuning in to the Katie Sistine Show. And behind me is beautiful Israel, the beautiful country of Israel. And why? Because Mr. President Donald Trump is there in Israel today after his visit in Saudi Arabia. And I think next, he will visit the current leader of Palestine following this visit and his visits with Prime Minister and President of Israel, and especially with Prime Minister of Netanyahu that takes care of most of the day-to-day affairs for the country. So I just got back from some traveling myself, not around the world this time, but I went to California. And you knew that if you were tuned into my Friday episode from San Diego. I was out there all week and it was a lot of fun. I got to go to the beach and visit a couple of my favorite places and try to talk some politics. It was mostly prohibited where I went, mainly because I was out hanging out with people and not with too many intimate friends, just a couple of friends I knew pretty well that were familiar with, the fact that I was from Georgia, a conservative state, and that they, of course, are from a very liberal state, California, or at least living there. And the major consensus there, if you're a conservative, is to not talk politics. That's the major consensus there. So when I go to Georgia, even when I go to a bar or something like that, and I'm just hanging out with people and these are intimate friends that I know, I kind of feel it out and then I start talking politics. And there are people that are liberal, there are people that are conservative. Usually I find a more conservative narrative here. People leaning to conservative here more so than liberal, which makes sense. We're a red state, and usually I'm not, in the dead center of the city of Atlanta, which would create a more 50-50 or liberal bias. So in California, general consensus, if you're conservative, you're not supposed to talk about your beliefs. So what I like about the state of Georgia is that liberals and conservatives feel more free to talk about their beliefs. And when I was there, while Trump was in Saudi Arabia, dancing and having a good time and promoting the extinction of terrorism, or at least the suppression of terrorism right now. Flynn to take the fifth right now. At least, to suppress terrorism right now. This is a huge trip to combat terrorism, to work with Middle Eastern powers to combat terrorism, Saudi Arabia, Israel, Palestine, etc. While he was in Saudi Arabia, there was actually a protest going on against him. So the anti-Trump resistance is still extremely strong, especially in liberal states such as California. And of course, it's all due to, it's majorly, I would have to say, due to the media, the fourth branch of government. So recently out in the news, we have a new tax budget blueprint. The official, of course, has not been released yet. The funding is, as usual, causing a tug of war between the Democrats and Republicans. And the major note is it slashes spending on the social budget. So no more food stamps, no more Obama phones. I know people that, I don't know anyone that have benefited off of the Obama phone, but there are people that were able to get free iPhones from all of the recent social spending that the Obama administration allowed for. There are people that were able to access food stamps who had a perfectly okay amount of income to do so themselves because it was so easily accessible under the Obama administration. So we're going to see cuts on those kind of things, on the F word, freeloading. We're going to see cuts on that because, and rightfully so, because there's going to be more money in circulation. So instead of being given a food stamp and being told where you can use these food stamps and so-and-so, and that you have to stay under this income to get them, which entices you to not go and make your own decent income because you won't be able to get your F word free stuff. You know, without seeing these, we're going to have more money in circulation. And if you do get help from the food stamps, you're going to have, you know, more freedom as to where you purchase things because you'll be using cash and not EBT. I believe that's what it's called. So, anyway, Trump's been traveling to cities around the world. This has been an historic international trip. And right now, we're going to check out, if we have time, do we have time to check out a video? Start a video of Trump and Israel today.
And shalom. It is wonderful to be here in Israel. President Rivlin, Mrs. Rivlin, Prime Minister Netanyahu, Mrs. Netanyahu, thank you very much. I am deeply grateful for your invitation and very, very honored to be with you. On my first trip overseas as between the United States and the State of Israel. In this land so rich in history, Israel has built one of the world's great civilizations, a strong, resilient, determined, and prosperous nation. It is also a nation forged in the commitment that we will never allow the horrors and atrocities of the last century to be repeated. Now we must work together to build a future where the nations of the region are at peace and all of our children can grow and grow up strong and grow up free from terrorism and violence. During my travels in recent days, I have found new reasons for hope. I have just concluded a visit to Saudi Arabia, where yesterday I met with King Salman and with the leaders from across the Muslim and Arab world. In that visit, we reached historic agreements to pursue greater and greater cooperation in the fight against terrorism and its evil ideology. My future travels will take me to visit Pope Francis at the Vatican and then our NATO and European allies. We have before us a rare opportunity to bring security and stability and peace to this region and to its people, defeating terrorism and creating a future of harmony, prosperity, and peace. But we can only get there working together. There is no other way. Mr. President, Mr. Prime Minister, I look forward to working closely with both of you during my stay. We love Israel. We respect Israel. And I send your people the warmest greetings from your friend and ally, all of the people in the United States of America. We are with you. Thank you, and God bless you. Thank you.
Welcome back to the Katie Sassine Show. So Trump discussed his past visits and some of his future visits. Now, what's on the agenda next? Vatican City. He leaves the day after tomorrow for Vatican City to meet with Pope Francis. He's set to meet in Brussels, in Belgium, for the 28th NATO Summit. And on the 26th, he will arrive in Taormina, Italy, for the 43rd G7 Summit. So in Saudi Arabia, Trump met with King Salman and Muslim leaders at the Riyadh Summit. He said he met with several leaders from the Muslim and Arab world. In his speech, we just saw aired live this morning from Israel, he signed a $110 billion arms deal with Saudi Arabia, which is the largest in world history. And he was honored with the collar of Abdulaziz Al Saud, his first foreign order. And he and First Lady Melania Trump visited the National Museum of Saudi Arabia together. Got in a little history briefing. So, what's going on right now with healthcare? Well, right now, the Senate is trying to put together something for the repeal and replace of Obamacare, when in fact they should not have decided to destroy the bill that passed in the House. So now, because they've decided to nearly kill the bill in the House, we might just have to kill the bill altogether. They have pretty much decided to just redo the entire bill, and which seemed problematic to begin with. Now it is still problematic, and they're having trouble putting a new one together. Lo and behold, no surprise there, because they're basically trying to do it from scratch when one was already made that passed in the House. Instead of revising the bill that was passed in the House with a clean vote, well, of course, Republican majority with a clean vote, they are trying to just do their own thing, and now we may see this bill just being squashed altogether. And then who knows? Trump will be leaving his international trip reportedly early to come home and work on the new tax budget. So we'll see how that goes. Now, we've been talking about media bias. Bias in the media is so bad that in the very heart, in a city that is a heart of liberal breeding, such as Boston, Massachusetts. When we talked about Boston, Massachusetts, a very historical area known for Paul Revere, who's well known for saying the British are coming and warning Americans of the British invasion, not of the 1960s Beatles rock invasion, but of the 1770s United States, well, colonial invasion, I should say. Who knows? I'm not really much for words today. Now, of course, very patriotic area, right, historically. But nowadays, very anti-patriotism. Why? Because the country is very left. And the left agenda right now is not about nationalism, is not about patriotism, but it is about this one world agenda of a citizen under one world instead of a citizen under one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and ... justice for all. Now, why is this problematic? Because the world needs a strong United States of America. The world needs the United States of America to be strong. The world needs an America that is a nation united, standing strong. But what the left agenda does is it pushes a narrative that says nationalism is a figment of the imagination. Nationalism is unhealthy. It's unhealthy for the growth of a society. Because from the perspective of a one-world society, you don't want nations. But from a realist perspective, and let's not, twist realism with negativity or pessimism, because realism is neither of those. It's neither pessimistic, nor is it the other word I just said, I can't remember. So, realism is not pessimistic. What realism is realistic. And everything else, for as far as we know, is fantasy. Now, to an extent, liberalism is necessary. That's, institutions and whatnot. But for the sake of this conversation, let's just get the record straight on that. There's been a Harvard study out, just to prove what we're talking about. There's been a negative twist on coverage in the media, in the American media, very sick. It's been an 80-20 split on negative to positive coverage for Trump. We'll get back with you after these commercials.
Brand name merchandise at unbelievably low prices. Furniture, appliances, and electronics. Circuit World is locally owned and operated, serving the tri-state area. Circuit World has highly trained professionals to help. Visit your hometown Circuit World today. 3 locations in Georgia: Ellijay, Blue Ridge, and Blairsville, Franklin, and Murphy, North Carolina. No credit checks, so let Circuit World deliver to you today.
Hello, my name is Chad Watkins. I'm the manager at Larry's Body Shop. We are a family-owned and operated business and have been serving the North Georgia area since 1978. We are located at 1216 Progress Road in Ellijay, Georgia. Our shop specializes in collision repair and we work with all major insurance companies. Larry's Body Shop is ICAR Gold, the highest role of training recognized by the collision repair industry. It is estimated that only 10% of collision shops meet these standards. Our shop consists of state-of-the-art equipment such as laser measurement system, down-drive spray booth, spot and MIG welding equipment. All of our paints are mixed on site so that we can guarantee your paint to match every time. I know that having an accident can be a stressful event. We take pride in making sure our customers are satisfied with the repair of their vehicles. Our waiting area is clean and comfortable with free Wi-Fi and refreshing beverages. So if you're in an accident, stop by and see us at Larry's Body Shop.
North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds. Come on in to view the area's largest selection of fine jewelry at North Georgia Diamond. All repairs and designs are done on site by our jewelers. And North Georgia Diamond has the lowest prices on loose diamonds. You can also sell your gold, silver, and coins at North Georgia Diamond between Walmart and Lowe's in East Ellijay. Locally owned by Bill and Allison Craig, North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds in North Georgia.
Better days ahead at Days Chevrolet in Jasper. We make everything better, and no matter what vehicle you drive, our new state-of-the-art service center can keep you running like new with factory-trained technicians, genuine parts, and value pricing. Even convenient Saturday service hours and online appointments. So if you want to extend the life of your vehicle, let the Days service experts help. Your better day is just ahead at Days Chevrolet in Jasper, where we service whatever you drive.
Better days ahead, Days Chevrolet.
Find new roads.
Hi, I'm Rhonda the Mattress Lady, and this is my husband Gary, owners of Mattress Overstocked in Ellijay next to Walmart. And we want to earn your business. From the time you walk in our door to the time we deliver your new mattress to your door, you will see the difference. Our selection and prices are the best in North Georgia, and customer service is our top priority. So y'all come on in and let us help you find the right mattress at the right price. That's Mattress Overstocked in Ellijay next to Walmart.
Hello, welcome back to the Katie Sassine Show. We have been discussing a few different topics today, and topics we will delve further into later on in the week. We talked about the California bias, which is a nickname for the liberal bias in blue states around the country. And in California, you do not talk politics if you are a conservative. That's just the rule of thumb. Unless you happen to run into people in the Navy that are attending the local naval base in San Diego, because then you are likely to talk to some conservative-minded people that are more familiar with the way the politics works. So we also talked about the new tax budget blueprint. The real budget, of course, has not been released yet, and funding has been particularly cut on social spending. And it's causing a tug of war as usual, deciding where funding should be taken out of and added into, which we will get into detail later on into the week. Now, because of this budget, President Donald Trump is traveling home early, reportedly going to be coming home early than initially anticipated, maybe by hours, maybe by a day. In presidential time, an hour is like hour 10 minutes because they're just doing things so fast. So reportedly, he's to be home a little bit earlier from his international trip in order to sort out the whole budget issue. Well, the next big step in draining the swamp, of course, except for the healthcare reform, that is now in upheaval in the Senate. So we'll see how that pans out as they're trying to pick apart and restart everything when they should have just taken the bill that was passed in the House and revised it. They rejected that bill and decided to start from scratch on their own. Wow. Sounds like they didn't want it to pass in the first place. Sounds like they didn't want to pass it, so they decided to do their own thing. We went over a Harvard study. There's a negative twist on coverage, so much so, and this was developed in Harvard, in the city of Boston, a liberal breeding ground. And surprisingly, they found there has indeed been a negative twist on coverage, 80-20 split. So of every 5 sources you read, 4 of them will have a negative bias on the government, and only 1 will not have a negative bias. And that's not to say it's positive, but it won't have a negative bias at least. Now, this 80-20 split was come to the conclusion it was 80-20 after Harvard took into account common American news sources, including CNN, NBC, Fox. So they did take Fox into account, which if they didn't, the split probably would have been much more distinguishable. Because Fox is a more neutral base, well, touted as conservative relative to all the other liberal, bases for coverage. But, they also took into account U.S. newspapers, including the New York Times, and European sources. Herman Cain said on the media that the nation's quote-unquote watchdog, the nation's media, or as I like to call the fourth branch of government, Herman Cain said that this nation's watchdog has become the nation's pit bull, essentially attacking the commander-in-chief and therefore attacking the country. And from the start of Trump's presidency, we have had accusations against President Donald Trump like sexism and like racism. So whenever you're looking for a way to defend President Donald J. Trump and you're not sure how to defend some of these liberal comments, there's one man who you can look to kind of relieve your curiosity as to how you can stand up for your president when you know as Commander-in-Chief that he is an upstanding human being. So Dinesh Joseph D'Souza is an Indian-American political commentator, author, and filmmaker. He was the president of King's College, a Christian school in New York City, for a couple of years. And he was born in Bombay. He came to the U.S. as an exchange student and graduated from Dartmouth. Very great education he's gotten here in the United States. That's what brings many from India to the United States, actually. And in 2012, he released his film, Obama's America, 2016 Obama's America, an anti-Obamic polemic based on D'Souza's 2010 book, The Roots of Obama's Rage. The film was the highest grossing conservative documentary film produced in the U.S. So now we're going to check out a video of D'Souza defending a liberal college student's accusation that President Trump is a racist. Let's check out what he has to say.
Okay, so you said earlier that from your analysis, there's not any racist history with Donald Trump. He's a New Yorker, he has New York values. In the press during the campaign, there were accusations that he and his father were discriminating against black people in his properties when he was focused on the real estate market. Do you want to address that claim?
Sure. The discrimination laws in America since the 1960s can be interpreted in two ways and actually have two completely separate meanings. The first is what you would call discrimination in the old sense. Discrimination in the old sense is something like this. A white guy and a black guy apply for a job. The black guy is better qualified, the white guy gets the job. That is discrimination in the classic sense, right? In other words, you have the more qualified guy should get the job, the more qualified guy is African American, but the white guy gets the job even though he's less qualified. That's classic discrimination. If you actually look at housing discrimination suits, real estate lawsuits today, I would submit to you that out of 100 in the country, less than 5 are of that nature. Most of the discrimination suits in America today have to do with statistics. And statistics the argument goes something like this. At Walmart in Tulsa, Oklahoma, African Americans are 8% of the surrounding population, but they are only 4% of employees at Walmart. Therefore, Walmart is discriminating, and the EEOC will file, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, in conjunction with the Justice Department, will file a lawsuit. Now, I want to emphasize that this may be true or false, but it doesn't have anything to do with discrimination in the classic sense. What essentially is, there's an underlying assumption of proportional representation. And when that proportionality is violated, there's a presumption of discrimination and a burden on the part of the employer, or in this case the contractor, to prove why there is a numerical discrepancy between the ambient population and your workforce. If you look at the Trump lawsuits to look at what is the basis of the proof that he discriminated, you have foremen that said, blacks don't need to apply over here. We're not hiring any blacks. First of all, try getting away with something like this in New York City. It would be the death knell of Trump's company to even move in this direction. Most large companies have been sued for discrimination. Virtually no company is, over the past 30 years, completely exempt. Almost all companies have adopted various affirmative action plans in settlement of these suits. Sometimes the suits are for the purpose of getting those plans into place. I only mention this to say, to me, this is not a closed meeting.
Welcome back to the Katie Sassine Show. You can check out Dinesh D'Souza for yourself. We'll get to cover some more interesting points by Dinesh D'Souza later in the week. But he's discussed how discrimination, there's two types of discrimination. There's discrimination in the old classic sense, and then there's discrimination that occurs now, which is what you could call a reverse discrimination. Discriminating against the people that have been known as the discriminators in the old classic sense. So old classic discrimination, he made the example that you have a black man and you have a white man, and the black man is less likely to get a job than the white man, even though he's equally qualified. And example of discrimination, they give the white man the job because even though he is less qualified than the black man. And in current day and age, less than 5% of discriminatory cases are now of this nature, meaning the other 95% of discriminatory cases are of reverse discrimination. Now, we know discrimination is wrong. So why is reverse discrimination okay, is the question. Well, long and short, I mean, to put it shortly, it's not okay. Sorry, I've been, saying words that haven't made too much sense today. It's not okay. I'll be feeling above the weather shortly. Reverse discrimination is allowing for entitlement of minorities in this country. And it is completely unfair. For example, he gave an example in Arizona where he said that black Americans are 8% of the population in this particular city. Maybe it was Tulsa, I can't remember. But yet black Americans are only 4% of Walmart employees. So, I don't know, what is that telling you? So, anyway, what's going on is that right now, you have to be more qualified as a white American than as a minority in order to get the same job as the minority American. And there's this organization, Why Women, that we'll talk about when Jeffrey Halter comes in here. I'll go over some of the points of Why Women later on in the week. And it's fighting for gender equality in the workplace. Now that I can see being, alleviating discrimination in the workforce, but we'll have to look into that because it's equal, it's allowing more equal opportunity for the genders. But Mr. Jeffrey Halter, president of Why Women, also points out that there's a pressure on corporations today to hire more minorities, more millennials, and more women. Now, is this at the expense of a white man's job? Is this unfair reverse discrimination? Well, we'll have to study and find out. So remember, be aware of reverse discrimination. In Georgia, I've been discriminated against as a white person. I know that black people have been discriminated against as black people, but most people that aren't from Georgia find it surprising that not only can Caucasians, white people, whatever you want to call them, to be proper and politically correct, be discriminatory, but people who are not from the South, who are not from Georgia, for example, or Atlanta, find it very surprising that white people can be discriminated against when in fact this has been going on legally by race quotas that colleges must admit and that corporations must hire for years now, legally. So, getting back to that, later in the week on the Katie Sistine Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember to follow on Twitter and Facebook at KatieFYNTV and email to katie@fetchyournews.com. And remember to stay tuned in to fetchyournews.com and FYNTV for your latest from the voices of rural America.